Sure, I have this one. Okay. All right. So, a couple of questions before we jump in, because I want to know a lot of like what's been going on with you
Sure.
and some of the changes and things that you are experiencing. So I want to also hold space for that. Before we do all of that, I want to know when we first discussed human design, like that was a while ago, but I'm curious as
Yeah.
to what you've been keeping up with or what you feel like you may have gotten a grasp on, or like what about where are you in sort of maybe a human design journey or an experiment? Like what's your experience thus
Yeah.
far?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, well, not obviously, but when you first introduced me to human design, it was entirely new to me. I would say I've not kept up too much in terms of new developments or doing my own research since I was meeting with you. Although I've gone back to look at the information you provided for me personally a couple times, and it's been a good experience to go back and read it every time that I have. I would say the stuff that I've kept most in mind, primarily thinking about first and foremost the value of doing what lights me up, which we talked about a lot.
Yes.
Which was, I would say, I'm having a bit of an easier time doing that now than I was when we met, although
Oh,
still not as easy as perhaps it should be. And also, I think a lot about, I would say the idea of the not self theme has been very helpful. So I know for me,
mm,
like that's frustration. Um, I would say just that's been really useful in just giving me something to track as I go through life. So it gives me something to tune into, right? Like when I'm feeling frustrated, I note
absolutely.
it much more. You know what I mean? And then I can kind of track and keep data for myself. Like, well, when am I feeling frustrated? Like, what's going on? What's the context? Are there patterns here? What's my experience like? So yeah, I mean, even just those two things really, I would say have been very helpful for me.
I love
Um,
this.
yeah,
I love this. And if this concept of maybe translating, sort of do what lights you up is really the way in which you are here to trust that sacral energy in your body, right? Trust that authority. If I am facing something, and this is something I also want you to keep into your practice or start to bring back into your practice. Right? If I'm facing something and I'm actually my body's facing something, if
right.
I'm not getting that signal in my gut that's like, oh yes, I totally want this thing. I totally want to engage in this thing. I want to devour this thing. If I'm not getting that sensation of that signal, that thing is not for me right now. Right.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah,
like, okay, I'm feeling it. This means it's for me. So these are these major choices in our lives, relationships, careers, these major decisions where we're kind of just wanting to know, how do I know if I'm making the right decision for me? Right? How do I know when I'm making the right decision for me? It will generally be, again, I know it's lighting my sacral center up, it's lighting my
yeah.
authority up. And then I'm curious if there's anything that you recognize within yourself that when I think about the concept of doing this thing with my life, maybe in my relationships or my career,
Mm.
when I do this thing or I think about doing this thing rather, has there been anything that you feel lit up by in that sacred that gut response?
Yeah. So definitely, there definitely have been. I would say in the last few months, what's been interesting for me is I've reconnected, I would say, with a few things that I used to really enjoy. The first thing is kind of just like movement arts, like parkour, free running, things like that, which is like is the first thing I ever really fell in love with many years ago.
Mm,
And then for, variety of reasons, as there always are, uh, you get detached from the experience, from the practice, and you forget about it. And then there's a million reasons why you always not doing it. But then I
sure.
just came across a video that I had seen a long time ago, like that I'd probably watched when I was 13. I'm like 29 now, and I just felt like the experience, the feeling I had watching a video was just like nothing else that I had experienced in recent memory. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's been one thing, and then I've gone out like on my own when possible. Like if I can find time early in the morning, I'll go to the park in my town when no one else is there. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to frighten the kids, obviously, the well-to-do kids. But I'll use the
Yes.
playground. I'll just move around. It's so much fun, man.
Hmm.
I think I told you. I think I had. Well, I don't remember at this point. I've been training in jujitsu for a while, um,
Mm.
which I really like, but I don't feel the same way about. It's not for me jujitsu is like it's a good thing. I get a lot out of it. There's a lot of benefits. It's a more calculated experience though. It's like, well, if I go, it's a good use of my time. I'll get to see people. I'll feel good having exercised. It's a pretty cool skill
Mm.
set. You know what I mean? I stay in
Yeah.
shape. It's not nearly as deep as the feeling I have when I think about parkour, when I practice parkour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be one thing. And then I would say the other thing would be making music, just like writing lyrics, making my own music, um, which is always, that's an even, I would say, more difficult experience for me in some way because I'll have very momentarily that feeling of being lit up,
Mhm.
and then I can feel I have the experience of the barrage of conditioning come down, and
Yes.
it's just like a lot of thoughts. It's like, well, you can't really do that. You shouldn't really do that. This is kind of silly. You're too old. Like
Mhm.
whatever it is, I'd say for music in particular, I've been through them all. I've had all the thoughts about why I couldn't do it or shouldn't do it. But something that I actually spoke about with a client a long time ago. She said to me, we were talking about intuition and intuitive responses.
Mhm.
And she said, the thing that comes first is always your intuition. You know what I mean? And then everything else after that is the conditioning. So
Yes.
if you can track out what comes first, that's how you know, that's how you can be sure. So for me, music is very much that thing. It's like I have the feeling first, and then I have a bunch of other stuff to deal with afterwards.
Yes.
The thing
Yeah.
in the first spot is it's very solid. It's very good.
It's right there. It's the
It's
thing.
there.
I'm so deeply, it's so deeply beautiful to you are having this practice with your sacral authority. You are actively practicing this, which is really good. And right. So even in the beginning, we're like, I don't really know. I'm not really keeping up that much with it. Right? Like I feel like I should be, right. And in a lot of that, we're going to talk about those things that are coming up and maybe why those things are coming up rather. But you are practicing it in a way. You are literally tuning into what your body's feeling like it needs. And we just have to continue to strengthen that. Just continue to strengthen that and bring that to even smaller day-to-day things. What do I want to eat for the day, right? Do I feel that
Mm,
lit up by the options that I'm being presented with, or do I not? So even those smaller things, you can continue to lean into that practice and that energy that you feel, it will become so much more familiar that it'll be this subtle in the moment now feeling like, do I want to do music right now? Ah, yes, I want to do this, right? I'm leaning into that heavily,
yeah.
heavily. And because when our minds aren't used to something happening, we don't really think about how often we do this, right? So there's almost like this disconnect. It's like I do this
Right.
thing subtly, but my mind isn't always paying attention to each of those experiences. So the moment when we continue to practice with our strategy, we're proving to our mind, hey, get out of the driver's seat and into the passenger seat, right? Because
Yeah.
technically our body's already in the driver's seat. Our mind thinks it's doing the driving. So it's like, listen, trust me, I got this, right? I know where we're going. I know what we're doing. And that's going to be super liberating for the mind, but also empowering for the body. And you have, again, this powerful sacral authority, this powerful engine that is meant to be used doing the things that literally light you up moment to moment, moment to
Yeah.
moment. And I know we talked a little bit about this in the beginning, but going back to this profile, right? This profile piece of you have this 2-4, right? So this 2 being this hermit, this part of you that is super introverted, loves to get down and cozy, loves to
Yeah.
be
Right.
in right comfort, and you experience this tug of war because you have this opposite side of you, which is in what human design calls the opportunist, right? So human design calls the 2, the hermit, the 4, the opportunist. And the opportunist is basically the cozy, amazing, supportive friend, the intimate friend, one that needs to get out and socialize and connect and make those connections last. And in order for you to find satisfaction in your life, it really is about finding balance between those two opposing energies in yourself and saying, I've had my fill of people, let me go hermiting
Mm.
away. I've
Yeah.
had my fill of hermiting away, let me go network and connect. Because with the 2-4, your life purpose and how you get there comes through your connections. So if we're not leaning into that 2-4 energy, especially that 4 energy of networking and developing those close friends, we're missing out on all the opportunities that can come in our way for our cycle to respond to.
Yeah.
And so the reason I'm even bringing up the profile is that you literally said, like, there's a little bit of this jujitsu piece that I don't really resonate with,
Mm.
but I love it for the socialization piece and the connection piece. And what I sense is that more of what you're getting that sacral buzz from is that socialization piece amongst like-minded individuals who are here for a common goal, or here for a common purpose of reconnecting with themselves, but you don't enjoy the other aspect of it. And so your sacral authority is that decision maker for you. How do I feel about going to jiu-jitsu today, in this moment,
Right.
right now? Not
Yeah.
about what I'm going to feel at the end of this. How do I feel about going to it right now? Because if there's
Mm.
there's no light up, there's no energy, that thing is not for you, right?
Right.
And if it is, it is for you. And that may not, this doesn't mean like stop going to jujitsu completely, right? We're not
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
We're saying maybe
No, for
leaning
sure.
more into that. Just for today, I'm kind of not interested, right? Or just for today, I'm kind of interested. But the piece that I really wanted to highlight when I even was bringing this up was, if you can even replace what you're looking for from jujitsu into your life in a way that you are doubly lit up by, chef's kiss. Because you're
Yeah.
craving that connection. You're craving that we're here for the same common goal. We're here for the same common purpose. You love gathering. You love when people are gathering towards a common purpose.
For sure.
And
For
so,
sure.
what's that sacral response? Do I want to go today? Yes or no? Because that sacral response isn't thinking about what we're going to get in the future. It's an in the moment decision. How do I feel about it right
Yes.
now? Right?
Yes. I like that. Helps me a lot for sure.
Tell me, go for it.
Yeah. I think because I have a lot, like I usually go in the evenings, I usually have a lot of time in the evenings for the most part. So I found like I came across, I start training. It's been a good experience. And so my initial reaction is, well, I'll just do this a lot. You know what I mean? Like, let me just milk this until it's dry. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But the problem with that is then if I'm going 5 or 6 days a week, it's that's too much for me. And I can feel
Mm.
that. It's a very dynamic experience, right? 5 or 6 times, Dave's not happy. If Dave goes
Yes.
2 or 3 times, that's or maybe four, that's a sweet spot for me. So it's been
Yes.
exactly what you say. In recent weeks, especially, I've been focusing on the fact that like I don't have to adhere to the preconceived notion of how often I should be going or how often
True.
even anybody else from the gym wants me to come just because they want to see me training.
Just because they want
It
to.
can, yeah, it can change week to week, day to day, which
Definitely.
is it's been helpful for sure.
Moment to moment, as it's meant to be for you,
Moment to, absolutely,
It's
yeah,
beautiful. And again, that's conditioning, right? Society tells us you need to work out every day and you need to be consistent and you need to do it this way, right? And then we do also feed a little bit into telling people, well, don't think about going there, just think about how you're going to feel after. Almost like because we're trying to basically convince ourselves to do this thing that we just don't feel lit up by. So
it's a
it's
good point.
important to just know rest is just as important for a generator as it is for any other type, any non-cycle being, right? And so, and the other part of this is you find this balance in jujitsu, in the socialization piece and the workout piece for the health benefits, but you also find balance in going to the park in the morning and having that
Yeah,
solo time. So in a way, you're literally using your energy in a way that's meaningful when you have a little bit of that alone time in the morning. Maybe every day in the morning, I have this alone time, followed by a day full of jammed packed social connections. Because the work that you do requires you to literally be a social person. And then at the
yeah.
end of the day, you're trying to force yourself to be more social. It's like your 2-4 energy is like, I got enough of this. Like, I'm good. Right? I need
Well
to
said.
just give me
Well
some,
said.
give me an hour, right? So
Yeah.
really leaning into that is going to be super, super supportive for you in his journey. And we're going to come back to the making music piece because I did ask you to give me a question about something that is coming up for your life that you want to lean
Mm.
heavily to. And I think we, will hopefully be able to give you a lot of these answers. So one of the biggest things that I wanted to talk to you about is your Saturn return. What are you familiar with in terms of your Saturn return or the name of Saturn return? Like, what are you familiar with?
Zero familiarity. I've not heard of that before. Saturn return.
So it's such a important, pivotal moment in one's life. As I say, Saturn return is the time in which the planet Saturn re-enters into the same zodiac constellation from the moment of your birth, right? So it takes
Okay.
Saturn about 27-ish years to make a full a transit through all of the 12 zodiac signs. So when Saturn comes back into its placement at the sort of the same placement from when you were born, that's called your Saturn return. So we
Okay.
have about 2 to 3 Saturn returns, depending on how long we live, because it takes
Yeah.
again 27 years. So the first period of time in which Saturn returns back into it's sort of home planet for you, rather, would be about 27-ish years from the moment that you were born. Saturn is the planet of discipline. It is here to be when you are going through your Saturn return, the things that are not aligned for your life's purpose start to crumble away. Things
Mm.
that are
Okay.
not meant for you, things that are not aligned for you start to weaken. It's like having a pyramid that's sort of positioned, right? And when Saturn starts to come back, if it's not in alignment, it starts knocking and chipping away at that pyramid. And if
Yeah.
you've been living a life completely drenched in conditioning in the way that most of us are, what do you think that then means if most of our lives and most of our decisions have been through this place of conditioning and not in alignment? The more we chip away that pyramid.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So generally, you feel your Saturn return a little bit before, because it's a powerful, powerful planet, you feel it way before it actually gets back into its specific, like in your specific time frame. So for you, it was in March of 2024. That's when Saturn fully entered your the astrological sign of Pisces. But you would have felt this even before, because when Saturn was in Aquarius, which was where my Saturn return is, it dipped forward and then went a little bit backwards. So you felt it a little bit before, and it sort of sting the crap out of people and woke me, right? And then you get a little bit of taste of a flavor for about 6 months, and then it dips back out before it finally goes back in. So you felt a little bit of this tug of war, even probably when we were meeting in the beginning. You were already starting to question things. You were already
Yeah.
starting to feel like something's quite not right. Right. And the beautiful thing
Definitely.
about human design is it comes into people's lives. Most time it comes into people's lives when Saturn returns,
Okay. Got you. Got you.
because it is such a magical, powerful system that really can usher in and help you navigate this transition period. And so we're going to be in Pisces for about 2 more years. And so you're going to be experiencing and I'm glad that we had this reading, because these are some of the tools that literally will help you live in your most greatest abundant life. And what I love to say is help you to become absolutely limitless. Absolutely limitless. When you follow your strategy and your authority, you will start to have a much smoother transition through your Saturn return, right? This is like wake up now and learn these lessons now, because we don't want to repeat these in 27 years, right? Not that we won't have new lessons
Yeah.
that we still need to deal with in the 50s, but we need to make sure that what's crumbling away and needing to go, we part ways with it in a way that's really supportive energetically for us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will send you some resources on like it being in your specific um, zodiac house, what house it's specifically in, and more things about Pisces. But what I wanted to do with this time was lean into your 2 Saturn gates, because they're actually literally coming up right now in terms of what we consider in human design as your gates ability, like using your gates expression from a lower expression or using it in a higher expression. So in a lower expression, we're feeling resistance. We're feeling that for you, that signature theme of frustration.
Yeah,
That means
yeah.
we're using our energetic gifts in a way that's not aligned with us. When we use them
Okay.
in a higher expression, we're able to move through that resistance, right? We're able to lean into what we're really meant to do. And just with that little snippet, I'm curious as to what's coming up for you with the concept of Saturn return and like crumbling away. What's coming up for you
Yeah.
in that particular moment?
Well, I can give you a few things, definitely. I mean, the first I would say you're already familiar with, which is obviously my professional relationship to my career, being a social worker, working as a therapist. There's definitely a part of me that whenever I consider the possibility of just being done with therapy, I feel so good, inexplicably good. You know what I mean? There's obviously other considerations. I'd say more conditioned considerations. For me, and it's like, the first thing for everybody really, or for most people I should say, probably is money. This is like my main source of income right now. Although I would say I'm it feels like way too much of a struggle to make any money from what I'm doing, which seems to
Mm,
be like an indication that if I was on the right path, like money would just be coming more easily. I mean, you are obviously more familiar with all the world of social work even than I am. But I had this experience trying to get the licensure. I've been like counting my hours forever.
yeah.
I send in the application for the LCSW by mail. I get it notarized, everything. You take the picture, whatever, the whole process. Mail it back to me. They're like, oh, we don't accept mail applications anymore. You got to do it online. I'm like,
Wow.
so this is back in
That's right. They
January,
did
right?
move it. Yes, they did.
Yeah. Immediately, I'm just like, you know what? This is the sign from the universe. I bother. You know what I mean? Like you're literally being gifted an opportunity to take your choice back. You already know you don't really want to do this at all. You don't want to study for
Mm.
the test. Anyway, of course, because I'm a little bit weak. Months later, I say, well, I should do it anyway. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
I got to tell you, the whole process of this it's been impossible. I submit it. I still haven't heard anything. You know what I mean? It's just floating around in the
Wow.
ether, in the social work ether. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I feel like there's been a multitude of opportunities, or what I've seen
For,
as signs
for
to just be like, hey, you can step away. It's okay. It's really okay.
yes, it is
Um,
okay.
yeah. I mean, I would say it's a tiny bit confusing because I actually feel like I'm doing really good work with my clients right now. That's easy to say because I've got about 10 clients and
Mhm.
I've seen them for a while. And so we've worked through a lot of things and they're all doing well. But I have like zero desire to, take on
Take on
more
more.
work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm really enticed to just say, you know what, it's been the experience that it has been. I've certainly learned a lot from it. Um, I think I've honored my original intention to help people out as best as I can, and I think I've done that in a few lives, which is great. But
Mm.
I also think it's time to step away and be honest about like not forcing this, long term,
Yes.
because you said you're talking about 27-year cycles. There's no way in hell that I could just be doing sessions for the next 27 years. It is not
Mm.
going to happen.
It doesn't.
Eventually it's going to give way. You know what I mean?
Yes. And it
Um,
becomes a detriment to the clients that we serve. And that's where it always
yeah,
is that powerful duality. I love talking about binary structures because we're
yeah,
so used to saying it doesn't exist, but I think it does exist, but I just think it's so beautiful. It's much more beautiful than we think it is. And this duality, I just call it duality because I just love it. Right? This duality between I really want to help people, and then the opposite side
mhm,
of it is, but at what expense? Am I helping
yeah.
people or am I potentially also able to hurt them? Right? I'm not lit up by this. If I'm
Oh, for
not
sure.
all into this, my sacral, for in your extent, if my sacral is not lit up by this, I'm doing
Yeah,
them a disservice because I'm not accessing my gifts. This goes back to your energetic gifts. I know I
yeah.
gave you a like word, like a handout document of all of your gates, but we're going to cover some of the specific ones that are definitely relevant to what you've been going through, what you've been experiencing, how to support you again as well. But even some of the questions this is when you messaged me the other day and you were like, I know that this person has made a lot of progress, but people don't see this. What is wrong? Right? What is happening? And when I
Oh
was
yeah, yeah,
reviewing your
yeah,
chart, yeah, when I was reviewing your
yeah.
chart, I was like, this gift that he just described to me is crazy powerful. And we're gonna get into that. But let's go back two notches because I will ramble and just say this is this moment to moment decision of does am I lit up by this? Am I lit up by this LCSW application? It's really helpful with sort of having this sort of practice, this really good daily practice of asking yourself, especially when you're contemplating something major. This is why this sacral is really sort of second in terms of its powerfulness and hierarchy, is look, and I even tell clients to do this, look in the mirror and ask yourself the question, do I want to apply, in your case, do I want to apply for an LCSW application?
Right.
Was there a response? What did I feel just now when I asked myself that? If I did not feel anything, it's not right now, right? Not feeling a disgust means not right now, right? So it
Hmm.
might just be later I can apply, right? Or I can revisit this question later. But if I feel led up by it, follow through with it. But if I feel neutral, nothing, it means don't apply right now. Don't push against the universe right now. Don't push against that because that's where the resistance comes in. The universe is like trying to get you to go
Yep.
over to the left and you're trying to go to the right, right? And we're like, it just doesn't work out. And then more signs come into it to your point. Let's go back to these Saturn gates because this literally is the lesson that you're here to truly learn. So another big part of what is sort of believed in this concept of Saturn return is that that's the true mark of going into adulthood, that we are shedding sort of our emotional, some people would say sort of this emotional immaturity part of ourselves, like this like younger version of ourselves. We're finally learning, or hopefully we are finally learning how to shed that part of us and step into our adulthood, right? And start making more aligned choices and more choices from compassion, again, being limitless. And so your first gate is the first gate that I'm going to talk about is your personality gate. So this is the part of you that you just described to me as I'm struggling with this thing.
Okay.
Gate 63, it comes off of the head center, the very, very top. It is actually called the gate of doubt. And what comes with the
Yeah.
gate of doubt is the person has a gift at diving in and wanting to understand something and sort of having a little bit of doubt about its integrity. Like you might
Mm.
learn about a concept and you're like, I don't really know about that. Let me keep doing some deep diving, right? And you're really just trying to question things. You're always questioning things. When you do that, when you question everything, it can be from this lower expression, which is it makes you feel like you have to know the answers to absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Anytime you have a doubt, I have to get to the bottom of this. And so we spend all of our time and our
Yeah. Yeah.
energy trying to go down that rabbit hole,
Yeah. For
right?
sure.
And being that your head is undefined, you're going to be experiencing conditioning, right? You're taking in from everyone around you, constantly thinking this pressure to try to figure life out, to answer the questions of the mystery. What the hell is life all about, right? You might feel this pressure because when you're around other people, that's what you're taking in from this head center. But for you, it's going through this particular gate and it's causing you to question everything, all the concepts, all the things, right? And in
Yeah.
a beautiful way, that is a gift because without people like you questioning things, people won't be trying to maybe like go through. I'll use human design as an experiment and as an example. When I first brought human design to you, the one thing that could have happened is, okay, let me find out the validity of this, right? Let me learn a little bit more about this. Let me hear about where it's coming from, right? And this guy had this mystical experience. I'm not really sure about that. Let me try to practice this myself and see if it really works. If you didn't do that and sort of translate that in your own experience, then everyone would just be blindly following everything that is thrown at them, right? So in
Sure.
a beautiful way, the gate of doubt really does provide people with like, hey, this person literally questioned this and deep dove into this, right? And they really found that for them, parts of it was really working for them, right? And you were like, I know that now when I'm hitting frustration, it's not working, right? But when I'm feeling satisfaction, which is my signature theme, that means it's working for me, right? So you went through that process of already tapping into that sort of Saturn gate energy when we talked about human design 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So at its highest expression, you are here to see what, taste a little bit of what people are talking about in terms of these concepts about life and the meaning behind life and spirituality and all of that. And at its lowest expression, though, you're trying to then make decisions from the mind. You're bypassing your body and going into, well, what is my mind thinking, right?
Hmm.
Which is almost always conditioning, right?
Yeah.
Where's the money going to come from? Who's going to take care of my
Yeah.
clients if I leave? I just went through grad school, worried about fit, right? That's the mind trying to make a decision. Just stay and get your LCSW because you already started, right? Versus the higher expression of your mind saying, is social work really for me? Is clinical social work fully for me? That's a great example of how you use your gate of doubt in a way that was really meaningful for you. Is social work
Yes.
truly meaningful for me? You wanted to experiment with it, right? You got into it, you helped with kids, which you absolutely did love. And then you started
Yeah. Yeah.
working outside of that, and you're like, I don't really know if it's fully worth committing to. That's you using it at its highest expression and saying, okay, my sacral is no longer lit up by this. Literally, I was the person that you were talking to about getting into social work even before you
Yeah.
went into social work, and you
Yeah.
were lit up by it. So it's so interesting to see this contrast of you being lit up by this to over the years having seen you be so disinterested and so not responsive to this. And then when I found about human design and talked to you about human design, and it was like, then you were like, right? It was like, I was like, wow. Like, it was like me watching you the way that you are meant to watch you. Your mind is meant to
Yeah.
do what I do all the time, which is observe you go from point A to point B and see whether or not that sacral continues to light up. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. Absolutely.
And then the design side, the unconscious gift, the gifts that come from sort of this genetic inheritance that you get is also what you're seeking. And it's what you've been seeking even when we had coaching sessions 2 years ago. This is gate 34. It comes off of the emotional center. This is the gate of friendship. This
Yeah.
gate is super, super, super magical, super powerful, and super, super poetic. You absolutely love and thrive off of creating community, creating connection. That also feeds so beautifully into your four line, the part of you that's just a natural at getting to really know people. It makes sense to
Right.
why you gravitated to social work, right? Because it is
Yeah.
about connecting people, not on that surfacey level that I can't, as a fellow 2-4, I do not like surface conversations. How's your day? How's the weather? I'm like, ooh, right? But when it's like, tell me about your favorite color, like where you like to travel, I'm like, let's go, right? And so social work really gave you that little bit of a taste that you need in terms of who are the type of people I need in my corner. And maybe that looks like having a lot more people who are all about wellness and healing. And maybe it's time for
Yeah.
us to cultivate the friendships where the people I know are all about wellness, healing, tending to the mind and the body. And that's what I gained from this experience of being a social worker is the importance of it. And now I just need to nurture that and make sure I keep nurturing that while I also still go to do the things that I love. And
Yeah.
at its lowest expression, which is what keeps coming up, is for gate 34, the lowest expression is feeling like you have to be responsible for others on a material plane, in a material way. This can look like finances. I have to be responsible for other people, so I have to make a lot of money. So
Yeah.
that's where that level of conditioning you're coming through. It's like the mind. Human design uses this analogy that any centers that we have that are defined, I'm sorry, any of the undefined centers that we have are like a bunch of noisy school kids in the back of a car. So, right. So you have the body you driving, the mind you in the passenger seat, and then all of your open centers and channels are in the back seat, being the noisy kids. And so you're trying to
Okay.
drive and steer going towards your true
I
north,
like that.
but the
Yeah.
kids are just like screaming at you. And you're like, ah. And so the moment you find connection, your body's like, great. But your mind's like, okay, but you're going to be responsible for, if you get married, if you have a partner, if that's what you're craving, you're going to have to be financially responsible for them. So you need to have a job that pays the bills
Yeah.
and pays the health insurance, right? And then you're like,
Yeah.
great, let me stop playing music and get back to this LCSW application that I'm so unlit up by. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like that's the magic of this 34, this 37 in you. It wants to create those foundational connections. You have them. It's just nurturing and leaning into them and knowing that if you step away from something, it doesn't mean all of the connections you created will go away. You'll
Yeah.
still
Well,
have the
that's,
social
yeah.
work connections you have. You'll still have the jujitsu friends that you may have made if you've gotten numbers and things like that. These people don't have to go away just because we're no longer interested in doing the specific thing that's linking us.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's certainly reassuring. Yeah, for sure.
How does it feel hearing about this? This sort of your two Saturn gates are all about the gate of doubt and then the gate of friendship. And then hearing about those two essences of using them in their highest potential and then the lowest potential. What comes to mind?
Yeah, I would say honestly, on both cases, both of them I'll explain individually. Both resonated with me quite a bit. I mean, the gate of doubt, I would say that the idea of questioning actively, um, in a very exploratory, curious way, that's been on my mind so much recently. I would
Mm,
say, given that, like in the last like decade or so, I've been through so many different phases. I've had the experience now of committing to something that I felt at the time so strongly about, only to see it kind of fall apart within a few years. And
yes.
so, a lot of what I've been grappling with uh, intellectually is like, well, how do I even really know? You know what I mean? It's like
Mm,
it seems like I've now had the experience that has informed me. Like you can't really trust your decisions in the same way that you thought you once could. Like if you're gonna just
mm,
make choices, mind choices,
yeah.
uh, those are not gonna be guaranteed. Like you just don't know what's gonna happen. So
No.
um, I've been highly doubtful, I would say, uh, which is good and bad. I mean, obviously, there's a limit to how far I would say
Yes.
doubt can get you, but
Yes.
it's been helpful in like letting go of certain ideas, letting go of certain thoughts, letting go of certain attachments, um,
Yes.
to just step back and say, well, how do you really know? Like maybe it's not
Mm,
true, all this stuff that you're thinking. So that's been on my mind a lot, especially now in the light of, like I would say, coming to terms with wanting to leave social work.
yes.
And then in terms of building community, I would say some of the most exciting ideas that I've had um, have all involved like meeting people doing stuff that I really loved. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So for me, it's not so much just about finding like an activity that lights me up. It's like the highest excitement is always finding an activity that's amazing and being
And
in a group that's amazing. You know what I mean?
yes.
For sure, it's always the combination. So when I was younger, when I first found out about parkour and I was like going out at like 13 years old or whatever, some of it was the magic of the experience of being able to move creatively with your body,
Yeah.
of imagining something and then manifesting it in your movement. It's like such a beautiful act of creation, it's like dancing in a way. But some of it was also that I had a group of friends that I would go out with and we would just explore together. And I would say as not too much time went on, my friends lost interest in going out in the same way, and so for me, then also what followed was losing interest in the activity, and I
Yes.
would say that's been a big challenge for me. Like a big part of why I studied music was I had so many great friends and great experiences in community making music, and then eventually, you don't have the same community. And I
Absolutely.
could say the same about social work. Like, how much I liked being at the Job Corps when I was there. And then
Yes.
a year later, I end up beginning of a pandemic. I'm working virtually, zero community.
Zero
So
connection.
zero,
Isolation.
exactly, for sure. So when you said that, it really highlighted for me that a lot of what's not worked in my life has been getting exposure to community and then seeing the community
It
fall apart.
yeah, being
Yeah.
in the pandemic's case, being ripped away.
Yeah,
You
for
know, it's
sure.
being ripped away. And I'm curious, if, you know, and this is just something to think on. This is more of like an existential thing to think on. It's like until I build this life, this dream life that I want, this music life, and you may keep mentioning like
Yeah.
financial peace, like, is there some way for me to get into use my social work skills in a way that I actually have access to that connection in that community? Because you're still working virtually, you barely connect with teams, right? Like, so a lot of these pieces, it's going to make it a lot more harder to enjoy a job or anything, even if we when we do the things we love, if we're not having, just like you said, if I'm doing this particular parkour and I'm doing this activity and then all of a sudden I don't have the connection there anymore, then I lose interest in that thing, right? And so it's like
Yeah.
finding a way to whatever we're doing, finding a way to ensure that for you at least is I'm balancing that 2-4 energy,
Mm.
that part of it where I can hermit and recharge, but I also am leaning into that networking piece. And then you double down on that, having that 4 energy with this particular Saturn gate 37 of friendship, where it's even more important for you to have gatherings and connections and community, right? It's like double whammy. So it's like, again, Saturn's this planet for learning and for discipline. And so it's like, at my highest expression, how can I create sort of an affirmation to remind myself about my gifts in their highest expression, right? And so for you, a highest expression or mantra that I invite you to use in terms of gate 63, the gate of doubt, is I am here to question things. I am here to question things, and not but, and I release the pressure to turn it inward and question myself. You're here to
Mm.
question things, and whenever the center is open, whenever we have a center that's open, it's not meant to be used for us. It's not, it is our gift, but it's our gift to help other people. So when you're creating,
Right.
when you're experiencing doubt, you're meant to take in other people's questions. You have a little bit of doubt about what they're saying, right? And you sort of weigh the pros and the cons, and you may help them find their true answer. But when we turn that gate of doubt inward on ourselves, it is not meant to be that way. It is defined, it is undefined for a reason. It's meant to be used for the collective, for others, not turned inward
Oh,
towards
interesting.
ourselves. So that affirmation,
Interesting.
I am here to question things for the collective. I am here to question things when I feel lit up by this. I really encourage
Yeah.
people to take my versions of affirmations, because sometimes I give you like 5 or 6, and like piecemeal it until it resonates with your sacral. I don't want you to have to use my affirmation that works for me. Like, use it, piecemeal it with that, but know that
Sure.
you are here to question things. That is a that even knowing that bit alone, like I am here to question things and validate that, can be liberating, because it lets your higher expression, the highest expression, know, okay, there's nothing wrong with doubting,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
then releasing the pressure to turn this inward, because this pressure center is trying to make it happen. It's trying to force you to look and deep dive into the answers rather than let it come to you. You may doubt something, like you may say, okay, astrology, I doubt astrology, but I'm going to allow the answers to reveal themselves to me, rather than trying to pressure or force myself to find the answer as to whether this thing is true or not. So it's like, I made this decision to be a social worker. Now I'm going to force myself to see whether or not it was worth it. That's literally what's happening. It's like, I'm going to force myself to see, was this really worth it? And I'm going to ask myself this every single day. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? Was it worth it? Turning that doubt inward, creating that resistance.
Yeah. That's very helpful. I would say even just I definitely down to like rework the affirmation for myself, but just you giving me the idea of affirming around the value of doubt is really
Yeah.
helpful. For sure. I think also because, at least for me personally, it feels like there's a tremendous pressure floating around the rest of the world to not be doubtful, to be confident in everything you do, to
Yeah.
know how you want your life to be, to have everything ordered and moving forward in
Certain.
one direction smoothly. I'm just not there at the moment. You know what I mean? I'm not there at all. And I can sometimes feel in meeting with people, if they ask me about my work or my life and how I feel about it, I'm pretty honest. I'm pretty ambivalent about it,
Yeah.
and I can feel that's confusing for people. That I can be
Yes.
my age and in my career and feel how I feel. You know
Yeah,
what I
they're
mean?
like, right, that's conditioning, right? That's
They're like, what?
so much conditioning. What? You should have figured this out in 18, right? When we tell everybody to figure out their life's purpose, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you should figure this out. But you actually have this defined ajna center that is here to be certain in a way. So there are things in your life that you will be certain about. And then there's moments where that doubt energy is going to creep in, and that's okay. So that affirmation, I'm here to question things, is going to be super, super, super powerful for you. And then for an affirmation for, you know, the gate of friendship, I am here to connect and create community, or I am
Yeah.
here to experience community. Really
Yeah. I mean, that's
leaning
good to hear
into
too.
that can be
Yeah.
really super, super powerful for you. Can be super,
Yeah,
super,
man.
super powerful. Like, I'm gifted at connections,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And really leaning into that, really leaning into that. So those are your two Saturn gates that are super, super helpful for, hopefully will be super, super helpful for you in terms of knowing, you know, how do I go through the next 2 years? Look, you know, what themes are, what am I here to work on? These are two things that you're absolutely here to work on. You're here to work on and find disciplined practice in being able to use your gate of doubt in its highest expression. You're here to be disciplined about creating communities and connections,
Yeah.
authentic and genuine ones, right? But we do all of that by following those sacral cues. Do I want to do this thing right now in this moment?
Hmm.
What's the yes or what, is it a is it that gut energy pull yes, or is it a silence, a no,
Yeah.
or not for now, right? Because your inner authority is your compass. That's your compass helping you get to your true north, right? What's really beautiful about your chart is you have these powerful gates that literally, like, when I was reviewing this, I was like, wow, his sacral center is literally connected to his G center. His G center being all about love and purpose and identity and being defined, being meaning I'm here to consistently know my purpose. I'm here to consistently know who I am. I'm here to experience the sort of highest expression of love. I'm here to be on my life's purpose. I'm here to trust that the decision and choices that I'm making are taking me straight to my true north. And when people come in and are like, I have a defined G, but I don't feel like I know who I am. I don't feel like I'm in the career of like, it's like, because you're not responding to that sacral. Well, for you, it's not responding to that sacral center. It's super connected. So here, it's also an unconscious channel. So it means it's not easily a gift that's not easily available to you in sort of in a mental sense. But you have this channel that goes from the sacral center right up to the G center. It's called the channel of the beat. And this is connecting channels 14 and channels 2. And this is a powerful, powerful channel that is meant to help you with your life's purpose. And a big part of what you're here to do in this lifetime is to create physical things with people in a way
Mm.
of, and this is, and what shows up for me in this is an example of when you work in Job Corps and you're working with these youth on creating the life of their dreams. You're working with them, and
Yeah.
tell me a little bit more about the other parts of it. But like, you're working on resume building, you're working on, like life skills, you're working on, right? You have this hands-on approach that lit your sacral up. That's what the channel of the beat is. I need hands-on approach to helping people. I need to be making something. I need to be creating physical resources to support people with them or for them. So when you went into telehealth therapy, you in essence lost one of your senses, that most powerful sense that
Yeah.
you have, which is being able to touch and make things with people,
Yeah.
especially when you left working with kids, right? But you're here to do this. You're here to do. There was this analogy during my studies where it's people who've created online businesses where things are just self-paced and they're running themselves. When they have this channel of the beat, they're here. What they feel less, they feel maybe not lit up by, is because they're no longer making something with people because everything's sort of self-sufficient and online. And so it's really important for them to like make packages for people and give it away, create little intimate things for people and send it to people. And it just is a way to help them get back into that physical piece, making something.
Yeah.
What's beautiful about this is you love making music. You love holding on to instruments and being able to create something beautiful. It
Yeah.
lights your sacral up, which pushes you. Every time your sacral is lit up, I want you to almost imagine when my sacral's lit up, it's pushing me towards my true north, because that connection is super powerful. It's literally every time you're lit up, it's pushing you towards your true north. It's recalibrating your inner compass,
Yeah, that I like that. I like that a
right?
lot.
So
I
me
like the
making
idea of
something,
recalibrating. That's
yes,
very helpful for sure. Yeah.
good, good. And then when you feel satisfied, you want to do it again. And then all of a sudden you have access to this powerhouse energy to be able to do, I can do 8 hours of this and not feel tired or not feel drained or not feel disconnected from it.
That's what I'm missing now, man. Yeah, it's like it feels like I just only have so much energy to do my work, and as I start to move towards things that feel better, I've been sleeping less, but still feeling rested. I've
Yes.
been spending my time so much more productively. Like it's not like I make the effort to. It's just it happens naturally, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what that, and I would say that is definitely a goalpost for you, right? Calibrating that compass. And then the other channel that you have is it's called sort of the channel of the freak. It connects the throat to the ajna center. This is also an incredibly powerful, future-oriented gift. So this gift is meant to propel us into the future. What this really means, the channel of the freak, is that you, Dave, yourself, have a very, very, very specific way in which you see things. Some would see it as so strange because the way that you're seeing it is just like out of this world. That's why it's called,
Mm.
we call it the channel of the genius, we call it the genius freak, but the channel of the genius freak. But basically, it's you seeing this thing in such an incredibly futuristic way that no one would ever possibly think about. So it's like, that's not possible, is what you would hear from other people. Or that's a weird thing that you said. Or that's a weird thing that you've been thinking. For you, that's taught you to shut down and not trust your instincts and your insights. And you're like, if I share this thing, it's going to sound really weird. It's going to sound really strange. And it's also because you have you are not a manifester, so this throat center may feel a little bit wonky for you, right? It's not connected to a motor center where it gives you a little bit of that power and confidence in what you say. So because it's missing that little piece, it's like, am I saying, if what I'm saying going to land? Is it going to make sense? Basically, you're here to take all of these genius ideas that you have, all of these genius ideas, and translate them, take time with them, sit on them to translate them into a way where it's like, I have this high intellect. It's almost like you're saying, I have this high ass intellect, and I need to like dumb this down to make it make sense to the common person. That's all. That's
Mm.
also like the vibe I want you to have. It's like, I know my shit.
Yeah.
I'm a genius. That's your affirmation for that particular channel. I'm a genius. And
Yeah.
knowing that what you have to say is literally going to be also a part of your life's purpose. But what you're going to be saying is also here to help the collective. It's going to feel a little bit weird. You're going to not always want to share things. That's where you follow your strategy and your authority. So that timing is always right. So you're like, what I
Yeah.
have to say, what I thought about a week ago, I've been refining it and refining it. And this person that I'm sitting in, we're having this conversation about astrology. And I had this crazy thought about astrology. I'm just using this as an example. I translated it downward, but because we're lit up by this conversation, now I can deliver this crazy thing that only I can say or only I see. And I might change this person's world. I might change the entire world. So that concept that I'm a genius is literally meant for you as an affirmation, as an affirmation that all the thoughts that come through my head that feel a little bit far out there that I might also be doubting because I'm like, who would think that? You think that you're the only one that thought that. That is a gold idea. That is a gold
Yes.
concept that you're creating.
Yeah.
Does that make any
That
sense?
well, yeah, makes sense and definitely hits home. I definitely am sitting here like in my head running through any number of scenarios from the past in which I've shared something and it's not been I received, with not total openness or
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's just it's happened so many times that when you especially when you mentioned kind of developing an unwillingness to share. It was like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
I constantly am feeling like, well, I have all these things I could share, but like, who wants to hear them? You know what I mean?
Yes. And
Yeah,
it's like
for
when you
sure.
refine those things and translate them into a way that meaningful for you, everyone's going to want to hear it. Everyone's going to, and they're going to benefit from it. And it's meant to lead us into the future. So it's like, this is like intellectual property that you're meant to like trademark, stamp, and put out into the universe because that idea is next level. That idea is genius. I am a genius. Really
Yeah.
leaning into that, really leaning into that. And then the last channel that you have, it also connects your throat to your ajna. So you have this beautiful thing where a lot of your energy that's concentrated in your chart is two specific channels, two powerful energies that are sort of creating a flow from throat to ajna, from throat to ajna, right? And this is a channel of the channel of acceptance, and it is connecting gates 17 to 32. And this is a person that is here to be a teacher in some way. You're here to educate other people about mental concepts. You're here to teach other people and educate them about the knowledge that you've obtained from your ajna center, right? These genius freak ideas that you've created in your mind. You're meant to take them, dumb them down to like, can this land with a 5-year-old type of dumb it down? I don't mean dumb it. That feels like that's offensive. But because I'm with you, I'm probably also tapping into that channel of the freak, and so I'm just saying stuff that like what? Hopefully that
Yeah.
lands. But it's like bring it down intellectually because you're so intellectual and so much of a genius that I can't understand it. So I need you to simplify it for me. But you're basically here to educate people on those mental concepts that only you've created in your mind.
Yeah.
That is also in your life's purpose. That is a big part of whatever your life's purpose is.
Okay.
You have
Gotcha.
such a way of being able to explain things in such a beautiful and meaningful way. You know, this was music. You're able to educate people on the connection of chords, right? And the progression of chords and how beats go, right? I'm even thinking like you're using a drum, right? Sort of the channel of the beat. And what's your instrument again?
Trombone used to be.
Trombone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, first of all, to genius freaks, like, to be able to be a creative and right, take this mental concept of learning all about music, right? Learning all about the intricacies of music theory, right? The notes. I remember those classes. I'm like, can I just play the music? I don't really want to learn that. But for you, it might have been so liberating because you're like, I'm taking this really complicated mental thing and I'm making it, breaking it down, and I'm being able to deliver it through my instrument, through my music, right? And it's landing with people. And that's just, I don't know where that came from, but that's just like an idea that just came to mind. Like
Mhm.
taking this really complicated thing and delivering it to people in a way that's truly meaningful. It doesn't always have to be literal, like I'm a teacher, but it's like, how do I take something that I think about and transmute it and mutate it into a point where when I deliver it to people, they feel a ways about it. That can really resonate with music, right? That can really resonate with working with you. Like, I just want you to feel like you have these gifts that give you the ability to be truly limitless in whatever your cycle is lit up by.
Yeah.
And so, with that channel
Yeah.
of acceptance is again the ability to take something that only you know and be able to deliver it in a way that is going to blow people away. But doubt can come into the in the forefront and cause you to think that you need to know more things. You need to learn more. You need to look outside of yourself. People with the genius of the freak, sort of the genius freak channel, sort of the lowest expression is looking outside of yourself for answers. If
Hmm.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
like this, I need to go to someone else and see if anyone else is thinking like this. No one's going to think
Oh
like
yeah.
that because only you are a genius, right? So you're
Uh,
going to be then engaging in doubt because you're like, no one else is thinking about this, so there's something wrong with it. There's something wrong with me. It's like that's how the doubt gets in the way of your genius idea, right? So learning to really let that go and get away from the mind, know that your insights are coming down from a really strange way, but you are they're going to land. And one of your gates, which is gate 8, you're here to truly lead by example. You're here to continue to search for very unique and creative ways to connect with people. So a part of your dharmic path is you're here to be a leader. You're here to show people what it means to engage and creativity in a way that only you will be able to do it, in a way that will ultimately come from this unique way and be dumbed down and given and delivered in a way that's meaningful for people. When you lead, you don't have to lead by telling people what to do. You can lead by example. Here's me living my life's purpose, doing what I love in the way that only I can do it. And here's how I'm here to support you.
I like that. I don't need to sell me on that at all. Sounds sounds great.
The last major thing I want to talk about are your Earth gates and your sun gates, because these are part of your super part of your purpose here.
Okay.
So your gifts, and these are basically your gifts to the world. Your sun gates are your superpowers. They're the gifts that you're here to give to the world. Your earth gates are what grounds you, what helps you navigate and balance that energy. You have
Okay.
personality, sun and earth, and you have design, sun and earth. So your gates to the world, this goes back to um your correctly. This is the gate that is, when I talked about your channel of acceptance, that's where my brain is. When I talked about your channel of acceptance, there was one of your gates that's gate 62. This is the gate of details. So this gift, so basically when you have a channel, it gives you a very different expression of energy and a different gift than your two gates individually. So the way I've said this is, if you have a channel, you have three gates, that three superpowers that come from that area, because you have one gate and then another gate that really connect each other and make a channel, and then that channel has its own expression. That's how I say it. So you have like three superpowers whenever you have a gate, two gates connected. But one of those superpowers is a part of your life's purpose, and what you're here to deliver to the world is, again, it's the gate of details. Using this gift will be able to support you in following your strategy and your authority to ensure that um, it lands correctly. So your gate to the world is that you're able to share information that you have obtained in a very unique way. And this gift helps you in ensuring that whatever you're delivering, once you've done your digestion, it will land properly if you lean into that gift, right? So the gate of details, again, just to reiterate, so the gate of details helps it so that you're able to share information that you've obtained in a way that is deeply understood by others. This gift helps to ensure that whatever you share will land correctly with people. So you take all this complex information and then you share it in this really unique way, and it will land correctly when you do that. That's basically, in essence, that gift put together. I take this complicated concept, I translate it, and then I share it in a way that makes sure it lands.
Yeah, it sounds great. I'm always thinking of trying to do that. I'm always thinking of trying to, even when I'm working, one thing that I'm particularly mindful of is communicating in a way that's digestible, that's meaningful. It's not too cerebral, for
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
That's that gift working, right? It's like it
Yeah.
landed correctly. The person's like, ah, thank you so much, Dave. Like I totally understood that. That was you using that gift in its highest expression, right? What keeps you grounded is gate 61, which is the gate of mystery. So this is another gate that comes off of the top of your undefined ajna. You're here to ask questions again. So you have the gate of doubt, which is to doubt things, and then you also have the gate of mystery, which is here to also question things. So you feel this deeply powerful desire to question things, right? It's you basically are spending a lot of time in the mind because of these two powerful gates and how they express themselves, one being your Saturn gate and one being your earth gate. It's like I'm trying to balance and ground myself by asking more questions about life's mysteries while also doubting everything that comes into my mind, right? And so it's like you're interested in learning about all the existential taboo things in this world. Lean into that. If there's a concept of something that's so taboo, so out of this world, and you're like, I'm kind of curious about that, that's your sacral. That's also part of that sort of thing that can get your sacral going. It's like, huh, someone mentioned this thing about death and
Okay.
dying, and I'm super interested in that. that's going to then light your sacral up, because it's like you're actually following this thing that you're curious about. And that also gives you another version of recalibration. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
So
for sure.
lean into those taboo things that you're like, feels like it's a little bit weird. No one's really going to want to know about it. It's like, no, you're wanting to learn about this. Don't avoid. It's super, super important for you to connect with your spirituality, whatever spirituality means for you. With the gate of mystery, the lowest expression of that is disconnecting from your spirituality. That's going to be super
Okay.
dangerous for you.
Yeah,
For many
got you.
people and myself, the way spirituality in human design is often described, it is a little bit of that spiritual piece, but spirituality is about sociality. We just don't have the word sociality connected to it, right? But
Okay.
spirituality is about human connection, oneness, togetherness, right? So when you disconnect from togetherness, when you disconnect from socialization, you're losing a little bit of that gift that you have.
Yeah, I like the idea of spirituality being, in large part, uh, social, for sure, about
Is
connection, even if it's not social with directly human to human, but social in a more overarching way, for sure.
yes.
Yeah.
The design sun gate is the gate of growth. Trust that you have the ability. This is what reminded me of your gate of growth. This was an example of you using your gift of your the gate of growth, which is your gift. You were like, I know this client's been making progress. I feel it. I sense it. Other people are
Oh.
saying they don't see it. When that
Yeah.
message, that's what we said at the top of this recording. I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, I can't wait to talk about that, because that is also your gift to the world, right? This is going back to that design sun, which is your gift to the world, another version of your gift to the world. You're here to look into things and see if it's actually growing or not, to see if there's any change in things. You can examine systems, you can examine people and see whether or not there's growth potential in that. That's a really powerful, super powerful thing to be able to do. To be able to go into a system and say, my intuition is telling me that this thing is, there's no growth potential in here. There's no growth potential in this career, or there's no growth potential in this job for me, or there's no growth potential in this location for me, right? Or there's no growth potential. This person is growing, they're making changes, and then people are looking at you like, I don't see any changes. But what that's doing is causing you to doubt that very innate gift that you have. You sense that this client had making so much progress. That was you using this gift that you didn't even know
Okay.
was the name of it, right? It's like, sure, I know that they've been making progress. That was you leaning into that gift,
Yeah. Okay.
right?
Got you.
What grounds that gift, what really grounds that gift is the gate of continuity, which is also known as the gate of success. So you are able to see the ability, you have the ability to prophesize whether something's going to work out or not, whether something's going to succeed or not. I don't even want to say prophesize because that could be a charged word, but you have the ability to see whether or not something will prosper, will be successful. So you're here to basically guide other people towards their success and to guide them towards their growth, and be able to also see deeply if they're not growing, if they're not changing, if they're not evolving, right? And it's a little bit of that those two of those powers working together to see if there's some growth in there, but also to see if there's some success in this system, to see some success in this change. So those are two things that are super, super, super powerful. And I wanted to read this last thing because this is your cross of incarnation. This is what you're here. When you put those four gates together, they create your cross. Your
Okay.
cross, so your cross of incarnation. Your cross of incarnation, you have the right angle cross of Maya. What that really just means is you're here to pay attention, to uncover, and to hold together all of the details. You remember specifically all of the details about life, about others, in the world. And these details that you hold, that only you see, each one of these details are all singularly a part of your life's purpose. So every single detail in your mind that you're like, I've been holding on to this detail for years, and I don't know why. It's a part of your life's purpose. I've been holding on
Mm.
to this detail for a week, and I don't know why. Part of your life's purpose. So when you hold on, when you pay attention, you are super, super observant to everything around you. You're taking all of this in, you're questioning things, You're trying to get to the bottom of things. You're looking for the detail of things. You're looking into the detail of things, right? You're determining whether or not these things are going to be able to have growth or success. When you put all of these things together, it's helping you drive again towards your true north. Your cross of incarnation doesn't tell you what your job is. It tells you how you're here to use your energetic gifts in a way that is fulfilling, whether it was in social work or music, as long as you are putting together all these different things that you've learned from your experiences of observing, and you put them together and deliver it in a way that only you can, you are constantly, constantly recalibrating your entire sacral being towards your true north.
Sounds great, man. I love the idea of recalibration. I mean, especially just paying attention constantly, collecting data. That's one way I like to talk about it. Collecting data, um,
Mm-hmm.
and just continuing to be fluid in moving towards the path of least resistance, moving towards what feels limitless, as you've said a few times. Yeah. Um, but I like recalibration feels good because it's easy to get into the mode of thinking in which you say, well, I just made the wrong choice. I messed up. I did the wrong thing. You know what I mean? As if it was final, as if it was destructive in some way. But I like to think, hopefully I will feel more strongly about this as time goes on. I've really just been cultivating my connection to my energies, um, continuing to learn how to head in the right direction. Yeah, man.
Beautiful thing is you have access to this recording, so you will be able to re-listen, digest, apply so much, so much, so much. And I just want to say thank you so much for being the first official reading I did ever,
Come
and
on, man. Of course.
having this full conclusion experience of like even just following up with something I just have such an immense amount of gratitude for our connection, and you're letting me guide you in this way that just is super meaningful to me. I cannot like anything you need at all, anytime, ever. I'm like, drop it. Dave needs it. I'm here. Like that is the type of connection that I have with you. It's like you showed up for me in such a way that left a mark on me wanting to do this full time that no one will ever be able to understand. My first non-therapy client, my first connection where
Yeah.
I get to work with someone that I genuinely am connected to on a different level and getting to support them in their own journey on a different level. And I think this was just a beautiful way to go full circle 2 years, I think 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, we did
Yeah.
an
We
eight
did some,
week
yeah.
coaching program. Like it's wild. I just want to say thank you so much from the bottom, 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 bottom of my heart. As a fellow 2-4 lover, connections are absolutely everything for me. And I just want to say thank you for just thank you.
I know, I don't know if you're going to use the recording at all. If you'd like to, entirely up to you. I'll add this in as
Thank you.
a bonus for anybody who might end up listening in the future. When I first met you, when I first met James, for anybody who ends up listening, I was cutting grass on a farm full time. I all I did was just mow grass, water grass. I wasn't even sure I wanted to be a social worker. So people don't even realize really how much has changed, how quite crazily the circle has come to a close. But no, man, you've been, I mean, obviously a tremendous friend. I hope that goes without saying, but also just like a tremendous mentor. I'm really grateful that you've been willing and able to do both for me because you've helped me out personally and professionally. So thank you very much. The appreciation is absolutely returned. Love you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for
Absolutely.
always reaching out and thinking of me. It means a lot.
Love you too,
So,
my brother. I'll talk to you soon.
all right. Talk to you soon, my guy. Be well.
Be
Okay.
well.